Hello. Welcome to Outlaw Redemption, the podcast, a Western folk rock opera.
Yes.
I'm your host, Bill Wardlow. With me, as always, Ronald Allen Cordy.
How you doing, Bill?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Good. We've come to a pivotal part in our story. At last check, our hero was leaving town on a flurry, riding on the back of a horse, heading for the hills. Our prairie flower, she was at home being tended for by her father, the preacher, and we got Rex shot dead in the barn. People running off, the minions running off, yelling for the sheriff, posses being formed, the whole 9 yards. And so he heads for the hills. But even though he gets away, like he said in his last line, before I lose her, I'd rather lose my life. He decides there's no way. Spends a few weeks up in the mountains, all the way across the prairie, up in the hills, hiding spots, fulfilling like a self-fulfilled prophecy of being an outlaw, or fulfilling everybody else's prophecy of him being an outlaw. Circumstances,
No
the
good.
anger, no good, no count, criminal, murder, just like his daddy, just like they said. They made it true. They pushed long enough to make it true. Even though he was, in his mind, he was doing the right thing and saving somebody, just like his father, justifying his actions. And even though I can sympathize for him, he still did what was wrong. He had done what was right until he crossed that line. Once the line was over, what was right was no longer right. And he did wrong. But even with that, he thought, there's just no way I can live the rest of this life and never see that girl again. I don't even know if she's okay. I ran away. There were no cell phones back then. Couldn't send up a smoke signal about how Prairie Flower was.
Right. Had to go check on her.
He had to go. He had to go see that girl. Well, you know how it is. No matter how careful you are, somebody's going to say something, see something. They're going to tell somebody and not even try to rat you out. But eventually, there's what they used to say back then, there was the telegraph. There was no telephone, but there was definitely tell-a-friend.
Yeah.
And sometimes that gets around faster than any of the other media markets.
Still does.
The bad thing is that ain't nobody seeing the same information. It's getting told and twisted and told and twisted, but nonetheless, the root of it was true. Somebody did see him, and it wasn't long before they got to sneaking around that. So they wait, and they know where the boy's going. If he's in the territory, he's going to be going down there. He's going to be going down there to see that prairie flower. Well, of course, it doesn't take long. He goes down there and sees her, and they caught and ran right into his trap. And just like the generational curses end up being, that's where he ends up. Right back in the same jail that his father was in, right before he was hanged for being a murderer and an outlaw.
Facing the same charges.
Same charges, everything. And just like his father, in come that same preacher that preached to his father was preaching to him. Telling him that story about that thief on the cross, about outlaw redemption, about how his father, even though he had suffered the consequences of this world and his actions in this world, that he had found redemption within Christ and he would be going to heaven. And he told him they were still working on things, that he had written a letter to the governor, that he had been that one of the governor's secretary was a wounded soldier back in the war, and he had saved his life. So he wrote him trying to get some clemency, some kind of to commute the sentence or something, make it not death, because everybody knew he was guilty. He didn't deny that he shot him.
Right.
He just justified his actions, was trying to justify his actions.
So to throw another twist in here.
So yes, then he had to have another piece of grave news. Came from the preacher, who thought long and hard about telling him, but he told him that Prairie Flower was with child from the rape.
So she's carrying Rex's child.
She's carrying Rex's child. The man that he had shot killed this baby's father. And he got to feeling bad about it and thinking about what he had done and how he had grown up an orphan. And he just took away this baby's father, right or wrong. and he did it wrongfully. And he started thinking about what the preacher said. Then he realized what a hardship it was going to be for Prairie Flower and the whole 9 yards. And he started feeling a little sad. Started praying for her. Then he kind of realized how wrong he'd been. He prayed for himself. He just, even if he couldn't make it in this world, he just wanted to make peace with the Lord and be with him and be with his Father. And, but just like his father, he knew that the consequence, whether his salvation had nothing to do with the consequences he was going to face on this earth. And he pretty much resigned himself to the fact that that was exactly what was going to happen, just like his father hanging at the end of that rope. Same one they made him watch. He was going to go through it. So, and that's where we're out in this song, Outlaw Redemption 2.
So how, who was on the chapter?
So the chapter, the narration chapter, had we went with the violin and the clarinet. It made a really nice combination, both woody instruments, but one's a woodwind and the other one's a stringed instrument. But you know, there's just that richness of it playing through that little box it plays in.
Yeah.
So, and it was a really nice violin too, man. It was a concert. It was actually one from an orchestra. Right. Sarah's husband's violin, very, very expensive machine, man. It was a beautiful piece of work.
Yeah, very nice. So, it's subdued. The music on the chapter is subdued.
Yeah. Well, it's sad,
but not quite as subdued as the song itself, I don't believe.
No, it's we tell the whole story, and then we find ourselves actually in the song. We're in the jail.
Yeah,
we're in the jail.
But much more subdued this time than last.
Yes, we're a lot slower. Like I said, this is called Outlaw Redemption II. I really should I write it TOO or just Roman numeral 2? I chose Roman numeral 2, but I had considered TOO at one point.
Yeah.
As a title. But yeah, I wanted it to be real slow. I remember I'm finger picking this thing really slow on the guitar and really defined. And so it's a little bit longer a song, just really, you know, Lord, I'm sitting here in this old jail cell. They build them gallows tall and they build them well, you know, right outside watching the instrument of your demise being built right in front of your eyes, you know?
Yeah.
And knowing the fate, even though you're hearing the story about Jesus on the cross and them getting hung up on crosses and getting hung up on trees, here you got, it still happened. You know, they still went through it. And here he is watching, knowing regardless of what happens, there's that gallows.
Right.
So
we brought Joe in on this one, and instead of a saxophone, this time it's the clarinet.
The clarinet, yeah. So that was a little change too. We wanted to change gears a little bit, but stay in the same realm.
Yeah.
And again, like you said,
he did a great job of mimicking what he had done on the first one.
Yeah.
But also not mimicking. It. Yes.
But the other thing is too, like the first one's more brassy. Yeah. We used the sax.
Yeah.
This one, and again, more subdued.
A lot more notes in the first one. Even though it's faster and there's less, seems to be less space there, he did a really great job of holding notes out and playing a lot less notes in this one.
And it just feels like it, you know. So it's kind of an odd thing. We ended there is a little giveaway here, just the ending, and compared to this one and the first one. And if you've listened to the installment that had Outlaw Redemption in it, you'll know exactly what I'm saying. If you haven't listened to it yet, I'm not going to give it away. I'm not going to give it away on the podcast. You have to listen to and see what the difference is at the end of this one, Outlaw Redemption 2 and Outlaw Redemption. Just the way we recorded it and some of the things we did. It's really nice. It's definitely a visualization in the story. Yeah. I mean, there is a solemnness. There's just a resignation of exactly what's about to go down. Yeah. And the thing is, he even pleads his case, you know. When I saw her laying there bleeding and her hair's messed up and her dress was torn, He just snapped, and he beat him down. But then like he said, and then the devil just got a hold of me. Wow. Is there any redemption for me, Which is I think there's always something in our life we may fail in or do something, hopefully not that serious of a thing, but, it's just sometimes you might think you're out completely because you messed up so bad. Well, I'm just, that's it. And that's kind of the point of the, that's kind of the point that I'm trying to drive home in this whole story. I may go rob a bank and then decide I did wrong and come back and bring in the money and all that, and they may forgive me for robbing the bank, but I'm still going to jail.
Yeah, there's still.
I'm still going to jail, and they're going to arrest me. There's going to be consequences to your action in this world. Sometimes you catch a break, sometimes you don't, but most times if you got consequences coming, you usually earned them. That's why they call them consequences.
Yeah.
It's kind of physics, for every action, there's a reaction kind of thing.
Right.
And so, it's just, so it's a sad time, it's like, here was a guy that had everything against him and he tried his best and he was doing really well and they just kept pushing him. Somebody that had everything in the world and had no reason to push them. Would have changed that Rex's life one bit to go on about his business and find little Mary Lou down the street or some rich rancher's daughter that's down the road and make their family bigger. No, he just had to covet something somebody else had and resent somebody else's happiness and then decide to destroy the man. And so he did destroy everything he had. Then he got himself destroyed.
Yep.
He found his consequences. But the consequences of those actions is that our poor Hezzy's sitting in jail, realizing how wrong he was, and about to face his consequences.
Waiting on a hanging.
So that's us. Outlaw Redemption 2.
Chapter 9.
Well, everyone knew that boy couldn't stay away from that girl. And once they heard rumors he was possibly seen coming back around, they eventually caught him. Seems like his love doomed him from the jump. And like a turning of the wheel, we find the preacher visiting the jail again. And hesitantly, he told Hezzy about Prairie Flower being with a child, an innocent begat of violence. And that, coupled with the pending trial and imminent hanging, it just nearly destroyed that poor old boy. But every day, that preacher told Hezzy about that thief on the cross, and he told him about his own father's redemption while he was in the same place. He also told him he had written several letters to the governor's secretary, an officer that he'd saved during the war, asking him to spare Hezzy and reduce his sentence. Well, he felt like he had failed and was unworthy, and he found himself asking the Lord to look after Prairie Flower. And then he found himself praying for a baby whose father he killed. And he felt so much remorse that he just didn't stop there. He asked for forgiveness, divine redemption, like his father. That he might end his time in this world, but he would live forever with God in the next one. They build them gallows tall, they build them well. Gonna take that big old drop straight into hell. Eyes so red, it clouded my vision. My only hope is Outlaw Redemption. Outlaw Redemption. I saw you lying there, hair all a mess, with a busted lip, torn-tattered dress. All my godly thoughts started to regress, and filled with wrath, I took my vengeance. Now my only hope is Outlaw Redemption. Outlaw Redemption. I had a love, she had me. It broke my heart to see her bleed. I beat that man down to his knees. Then the devil got a hold of me. Is there any redemption for me? Outlaw Redemption.